Welcome back, everyone. Next up, it's time for a quick HTML basics exercise. So we really can't do much with HTML yet. We've got paragraphs and headings and proper document structure, and that's really all that I'm going to be testing you on with this exercise. So if you download the starter code, you're probably going to want to do that because it includes a lot of text, and this would be a huge pain for you to type. Basically, there's a file called cougars.txt. It's all information essentially from Wikipedia about mountain lions or cougars or pumas, which I found out in researching this is the animal with the most number of names to refer to it. Just in the US, we have mountain lions, cougars, panther, puma. Anyway, that's a side note. But what I've done is given you a text file that includes all the text. And essentially, I want you to take every paragraph of text you see and turn it into its own paragraph in an HTML element. But I've sprinkled in some headings too. Now, I haven't told you exactly what each heading should be, but here's the solution, the end result. So you can use this as a reference. We have cougar as a main heading. I'm not going to say the numbers, but the main heading on the page. And then we have a subheading and another subheading. But then within behavior and ecology, we have hunting and diet, and we have interactions with other predators. And then we have another subheading, relationships with humans, which is on the same level or tier or number as this right here. And then within this group, we have a smaller heading, attacks on humans, that itself has two smaller headings associated with it, in North America and in South America. And then finally, we have predation on domestic animals, which as you can see is smaller than this heading. So it is part of that content group. If you think of these in terms of an outline, right, this would be a bullet point, and then this would be nested, and this would be nested inside attacks on humans. This would be nested inside of attacks on humans, and this would be nested inside of relationship with humans. So it's a lot of text, but it's mostly going to be copying and pasting from the starter file, right? Just put this in an HTML file, properly structure the file, and then mark it up. Make this the right heading. Make this a paragraph. Make this a paragraph. Anytime you see a space or an empty line between different parts of the text, that's supposed to be a separate element. So this should be a paragraph of text, not a heading. This is some form of a heading, but it's up to you to decide what those numbers should be. H1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll just say we don't need H5s and H6s in this project, but you're going to use 1, 2, 3s, and 4s. Okay? So give it a shot. Pause the video if you need, freeze frame it here so you can see the different sizes, which remember, we don't really use headings for sizes. We can change that, but it does at least reveal some information to you if you're trying to recreate this. This is the biggest thing on the page. You probably can figure out what element that is, right? You can tell that this is smaller than this, so that tells you a little bit about what H number to use, what heading number to use. Okay, properly structure the file, give it a title, of course. Notice how it says cougar right there. You'll need to make your own HTML file and then copy and paste this text in. So do it, please. I highly encourage it, and I'll go ahead and do it now. So I'm going to make a new file called solution.html. You don't have to call it solution. And then I'm going to type my basic document structure. And of course, I could just do it like this, ! tab, or I can do it the long way. Put the doc type HTML tag at the top. Remember, it doesn't have a closing tag. And then I have my HTML tag, which does open and close. Inside of that, I have my head and my body. And then inside of the head, we're going to put a title element, and I'll call it cougar. That will be the title. And then let's start with the simplest thing. This is going to be our H1, right? It's the main element the main topic of the whole page. So I'll just put an H1 in there that says cougar. Okay, so let's open this up in the browser, or we can open it with Live Server. If I right click, open with Live Server, and there it is. Great. So what do we need to do next? If I look at this file, we have a big paragraph of text. So that should be a paragraph element. I'll put it inside the opening and closing paragraph elements, or tags rather. And then same thing with this second paragraph. This is a separate paragraph of text. So I'll make my p tags and put that paragraph in there. And here we are. We're off to a great start. Beautiful web page. Next up, we have some sort of a heading for naming and etymology. So just based on the structure of the page, we already have a single H1. This is a second topic, right, related to cougars. It would be nested as a subheading, not literally nested inside of tags, but this should be an H2. We shouldn't jump to an H3 or an H4 or anything until we have an H2. Okay, there we go, naming and etymology, and then I have a paragraph about the word cougar. And there we are, my H2. Next up, we have more text, behavior and ecology. This is on the same level of this H2, right? Behavior and ecology is not related to naming and etymology, but it is related to cougar, the main topic of the page. So I'll make another H2. And then immediately afterwards, we have another heading, hunting and diet. And as you can see here, hunting and diet and interactions with other predators are smaller, and they're both related to behavior and ecology. So those need to be a smaller heading. That would be an H3, would be the next step. If I had done an H2, that would indicate that it's sort of a separate topic, right, from this H2. But an H3 shows that it's related to this. It's nested as a subheading. And then we have a paragraph that is right, where is it? Right here. This is the worst part of this whole project, the copying and pasting. Let's refresh. All right. And then after that, we have another subheading, interactions with other predators. And that's also nested underneath behavior and ecology, so that should also be an H3. And then we have another paragraph, big paragraph here. Here's the end. Copy that, open my P tags. Why are you not auto-completing? There we go. Paste it in. Okay. We're getting there. I know it's a bit of a slog. We can't do much yet. Our exercises will get a little more exciting as we go. And then we go to relationships with humans, which is a separate category of information nested underneath cougar. It's the same tier as naming, behavior and ecology, and relationships with humans. So that would be an H2. Let's copy the name of the heading. H2. And then immediately after that, we have a smaller heading that says attacks on humans. And then right after that, we have an even smaller heading in North America. So I'm going to make this an H3 to indicate that it's a subheading. By the way, it's adding the returns in there. It doesn't really matter. That's going to be ignored by the browser, but it kind of bothers me, so I'm going to get rid of that. So this is a subheading, right, nested underneath relationships with humans. It's attacks on humans. That's a subcategory of relationships with humans. But then within that, we have attacks on humans in North America. So that would be an H4. I use the next level down. We don't jump to an H5 or an H6 unless we have an H4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, so in North America, let's get our next paragraph here. We're almost there. Make a paragraph element. And then we have in South America, which should be on the same level of this in North America H4. So that means it should be another H4 element in South America. And then another paragraph here. And I didn't make a paragraph element. There we go. Let's take a look at ours. Beautiful. Okay. And then we have our final heading, predation on domestic animals. So this is not nested within attacks on humans, right? These are two categories of data or information inside of relationships with humans. We have attacks on humans and then predation on domestic animals. So this should be the same as attacks on humans, which if we go back is an H3. So we'll put an H3 here, copy the final heading, put that in, and is it just one more paragraph? Woof, thankfully. That should be the end of it. Okay, let's refresh the page, our version, and there we are. We have a properly structured document. It's hideous, black and white text, way too wide. It does not look good, but the structure is solid. The bones are there, right? We're using headings in the correct way, which if you're not sure what I'm talking about with, H3s versus H2s versus H1s, make sure you go back and watch that video where I talk about how to structure your headings and that there's significance, there's meaning to something being an H2 versus an H1 and an H3 versus an H2. It's not about the font size. It's about the structure and the relationship between topics and headings. And then we have a bunch of paragraphs, and that's really all we know other than doc type, HTML, everything goes in HTML. Inside we put a head and a body. All of our content goes in the body, and then we put a title in the head. And that's it. Congratulations. We have our first exercise done.